Well, the plot thickens in the Boeing whistleblower suicide case. His attorney doesn't believe it. His attorney is saying, we need to investigate this. This guy was not suicidal. He didn't sound suicidal. There were no indications of this. And there's some other details that have come out about the crime scene that kind of raises some eyebrows. So let's go over some of the details here. So this is from Unilad. Boeing whistleblower's lawyer casts doubt on if he actually killed himself. The lawyer of the Boeing whistleblower, who was found dead days after testifying in a lawsuit against the company, has cast doubt into the circumstances behind his tragic passing. John Barnett had been working for Boeing for over 3 decades before expressing concerns about the company's production standards and safety. The 62-year-old had been a Boeing quality manager, making the 787 Dreamliner at the North Charleston plant in South Carolina from 2010 up until his retirement in 2017. In 2019, Barnett decided to speak out about workers allegedly feeling pressured to fit substandard parts to aircraft on the production line. So basically, they were cutting costs. They were saying, how can we make these planes cheaper? And they did. And then the planes were definitely made cheaper. And now people don't really want to fly on them. I know I certainly don't. One major concern of Barnett's was the oxygen masks on the plane. He claimed to have uncovered series of issues with the oxygen systems that could lead to 1 in 4 masks not working on the plane in an emergency situation. 1 in 4. Could you imagine? You're already in this horrible situation where the oxygen masks have dropped down and now 1 in 4 don't work. Oh my gosh. Boeing denies the claims, of course, says in recent days Barnett had been giving evidence during a lawsuit against the firm, but was found dead in his car on Saturday, March 9th. Barnett was found in his truck in the parking lot of the South Carolina hotel where he'd been staying during the legal proceedings. Charleston County coroner stated Barnett died from an apparently self-inflicted wound believed to have been caused by gunshot. After his tragic passing was confirmed, Boeing said in a statement, "We are saddened by Mr. Barnett's passing and our thoughts are with his family and friends." I'm sure they're really feeling that way when this guy was testifying against them. He was in the middle of depositions against him. Sergeant Anthony Gibson of the Charleston Police Department said on Tuesday, March 12th, "We understand the global attention this case has garnered, and it's our priority to ensure that the investigation is not influenced by speculation, but is led by facts and evidence." Yeah, of course, there's a lot of global attention to this case. This guy was in the middle of testifying against Boeing, saying that he had been a quality control manager and that the quality had gone down. He'd been making these claims since 2019. And yet now we have a series of issues with Boeing planes that are making the news time after time again. I mean, this is people. We're all wondering why the CEO is still working for Boeing, why the board is still there. Why haven't they all been let go? Why haven't they all been fired? Oh, probably because Boeing is one of the major military industrial complex manufacturers. Maybe that's how, we need weapons. So we can't upend the company that's providing so many weapons when we're in such a state of war in this country. Maybe that has something to do with it. So it goes on to say, given the sensitive nature of the investigation, we're unable to participate in media interviews at this time, says the police department. This stance is not unique to the case, but is a standard procedure we adhere to in order to preserve the integrity of active investigations. Okay, fair enough. I can understand them not commenting while they're doing an investigation. But the lawyer says, I don't really believe it. The Knowles said in an email to Corporate Crime Reporter, "Today is a tragic day. John had been back and forth for quite some time getting prepared." Said the defense examined him for their allowed 7 hours under the rules on Thursday. Quote, I cross-examined him all day yesterday and did not finish. We agreed to continue this morning at 10 a.m., but he kept calling and the phone would go to voicemail. So he was supposed to continue. And then he says, we asked then the hotel to check on him, which was a Holiday Inn, and they found him in his truck dead from an alleged self-inflicted gunshot. Saying we drove to the hotel and spoke with the police and the coroner. And then they went on to say John was in the midst of a deposition in his whistleblower retaliation case, which finally was nearing the end. He was in very good spirits and really looking forward to putting this phase of his life behind him and moving on. We didn't see any indication he would take his own life. No one can believe it. We're all devastated. We need more information about what happened to John. The Charleston police need to investigate this fully and accurately and tell the public what they find out. No detail can be left unturned. So it's not just the attorneys and loved ones who think something's very fishy here. Here he was in the middle of a lawsuit against Boeing as a whistleblower, saying you guys cut corners and now lives have been lost when these planes and lives could have been lost. Lives have been put in danger. And so, of course, that's a death nail for Boeing. This whole thing is a death nail for Boeing. When I'm booking flights right now, I'm looking at what aircraft would I be on, and I'm sticking to Airbus. I'm like, I'm only booking Airbus flights or anything but Boeing. I'm just really, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. But here's RFK Jr., what he had to say about this. He's also in agreement that it might not be such a suicide. This guy got Epsteined. John Barnett worked for Boeing for 32 years. The company worked to destroy his life after he exposed safety concerns. I'm proud that my sister Rory worked to tell a story in her award-winning documentary, Downfall, the case against Boeing. Boeing killed 346 people out of greed. Let's hope there's a genuine investigation of John Barnett's suicide. So it makes sense. I mean, look, this is a company that has turned a blind eye to death. I mean, in a variety of ways, not just on their commercial airliners, but also in, the war machine that they're participating in. So they turn a blind eye to death. So what's one more guy? What's one more guy, right? I mean, possible. It seems unbelievable in a lot of ways to think that a big company, a big American company like Boeing would do such a thing as like off a person. But we have to, but then again, we've reeled into a state in this society that is unrecognizable, I think. Many of us are looking at America today thinking, this is not the America I thought that I was born into. This isn't, I was told something totally different, and now here we are. So maybe we were also led to believe that, the types of stories we hear that happen in Russia, for example, where somebody mysteriously falls out of a window after criticizing, some big oligarch or whatever, thinking, oh, that stuff doesn't happen here. Well, maybe it does. Maybe it does. Maybe we are no different. Maybe we should stop criticizing and stop pointing the finger at every other country. Instead, focus on our own problems. Focus on our own problems, such as the rampant military-industrial complex, the greed in this country, and the suicides. People just keep getting mysteriously suicided. Now, why is this one mysterious? When they found John in his orange Dodge pickup truck outside of the Holiday Inn, he had been shot with a handgun, and the gun was found still in his hand with his finger on the trigger. This seems kind of odd. I mean, if you're going to kill yourself, it seems like you would go limp right away and the gun would fall and it wouldn't be in your hand with your finger still on the trigger. Now, I researched this. It's not unheard of. That does happen. But all of the research I've done from people who investigate crime scenes, people who've been at many suicide scenes have stated that it is rare, but once in a while they do see that. But then again, you have to wonder, well, the once in a while that you saw that, were you really looking at a suicide? Or was it just a staged suicide and it was believable? I mean, that's because they say typically what happens is the person goes limp and the gun falls somewhere near their body, in the vicinity of their body, but not still in their hand with their finger on the trigger. That's a little odd. And then there was a suicide note that was found. We don't know the contents of the suicide note. But then you've got his attorneys and family saying he was not suicidal. That's why so many of us, when we criticize, when we're talking about things, we always say, hey, by the way, I'm not suicidal. I'm not suicidal. So if something happens to me, it wasn't suicide. Don't believe them. And this is one of those instances. Maybe he should have put out a video saying, I'm not suicidal. He did talk to TMZ. John Barnett did an interview with TMZ. These are some of the things that he's talked about Boeing being a giant problem.
One, this is not a 737 problem. It's a Boeing problem. And I know the FAA's gone in and they've done due diligence and inspections to assure that the door plugs of the 737 are installed properly and the fasteners are torqued properly. But my concern is, what's the rest of the airplane? What's the rest of the condition of the airplane? And the reason my concern for that is, back in 2012, Boeing started removing inspection operations off their jobs. So it left the mechanics to buy off their own work. So what we're seeing with the door plug blowout is what I've seen with the rest of the airplane, as far as jobs not being completed properly, inspection steps being removed, issues being ignored. My concerns are with the 737 and the 787, because those programs have really embraced the theory that quality is overhead and non-value added. So those two programs have really put a strong effort into removing quality from the process. When I first started working at Charleston, I was in charge with pushing back defects to our suppliers. And what that meant was I'd take a group of inspectors and actually go to the supplier and inspect their product before they sent it in. Well, I'd taken a team of 4 inspectors to Spirit Aerosystems to inspect the 41 section before they sent it to Charleston. And we found 300 defects. Some of them were significant that needed engineering intervention. When I returned to Charleston, my senior manager told me we had found too many defects and he was going to take the next trip. So the next trip he went on, he took 2 of my inspectors. And when they got back, they were given accolades for only finding 50 defects. So I pulled that inspector aside and I said, did Spirit really clean up their act that quick? That don't sound right. And she was mad. She said, no, said the 2 inspectors were given 2 hours to inspect the whole 41 section and they were kicked off the airplane.
So quality had just gone way down. They were not paying much attention. Now, he says it's the 737 and the 787 that he's most concerned about. The 737 is the most popular airplane that Boeing makes. They've got several different models of it: 737 Original, 737 Classic, 737 NG, 737 MAX. The MAX seems to have a lot of problems. There's 4,821 orders for the 737 MAX, but only 686 have been delivered. Probably many of those orders will be canceled, would be my guess, because the 737 MAX seems to have a lot of problems. The others, the 737 NG is their most popular with 7,124 aircrafts delivered and ordered. So, he's saying the 737, I'm not sure if it's just the 737 MAX that he's saying, or if he's talking about just the 737, the entire line of 737s. The 787 is a smaller line. They've delivered about 1,000 of those aircrafts at this point, and there's some problems. So let's look at some of the incidents that have just recently happened. We do see. Let's see. So most of them have been on United Airlines. United Airlines 777 flying from San Francisco to Japan lost a tire on takeoff. A maintenance issue not related to Boeing. So some of these are Boeing directly related. Some of them are maintenance related for particularly United Airlines. So for me, I kind of stay away from both for now. United Airlines flight from Sydney to Los Angeles had to return to Sydney due to a maintenance issue after fluid was seen leaking from the aircraft on departure. See, there's the one with the tire that just flew off, and you'll see the one with the fluid. United Airlines 737-900 flying from Texas to Florida ended up with some plastic bubble wrap in the engine, causing a suspected compressor stall. And this is a disruption of airflow to an operating engine, making it backfire and emit flames. A United 737 MAX flying from Tennessee to Texas suffered a gear collapse after a normal landing, and the pilot continued to end the runway before exiting onto a taxiway, possibly at too high a speed, and the aircraft ended up in the grass and the left main landing gear collapsed. And then the 5th event was a United Airlines 737-8 flight from Bahamas to New Jersey. The pilots reported that the rudder pedals, which control the left-right movement of the aircraft in flight, were stuck in the neutral position during landing. So those are the ones that are looking like they were human error maintenance issues. What's interesting about, look, if I were Boeing, you already got enough problems as it is with your own manufacturing. I would tell United to stop flying my planes. I feel like you guys are making it worse, a lot worse. But the quality concerns are when there was the exit door plug failure in January on Alaska Airlines, which is my favorite airline. Luckily the route I take, I don't think they use a Boeing. I think they use something else, because otherwise I'm not going to take that flight anymore. And that's from LA to Boise. Then there was the door plug was installed by a Boeing subcontractor called Spirit Aerosystem, and that's who John was talking about in there when he's mentioning Spirit. And the door plug bolt, they were not properly secured. So they're also saying that could have been, human error, but it was human error by a Boeing subcontractor who should have known what they were doing. So there's a lot of issue that now. Of course, there were the planes that were crashing because they would go into automatic pilot, and they would cause, that was a giant issue. And I believe that was a 737 MAX. But Boeing's got a lot of problems, and a lot of people are wondering, and you've got the whistleblower who's now dead, who was testifying in this very sensitive time. And the details are a little odd, but then there's people working at Boeing. This was done by Al Jazeera, and they found that they did a Boeing plant investigation, and they found that people are not, their own manufacturers, the people making their own planes are not wanting to fly on them. 10 out of 15 said, no, I'm not going to take one of these planes after being there, seeing it. It's like the person who works in the food kitchen and says, I wouldn't eat this food. I know how it's made. Here's the investigation.
This is a Boeing factory in the U.S. state of South Carolina. Workers here in Charleston are assembling the company's flagship product, the 787 Dreamliner. But this footage reveals some have little faith in the plane they build.
Did you fly on one? No. You won't fly on one. Did you fly on one of these planes?
No, not really.
Of 15 workers asked randomly, 10 said they would not fly on the Dreamliner.
I wouldn't fly on one of these planes because I see the quality going down around here.
An employee captured the footage after contacting Al Jazeera to tell us he had serious concerns about what he was seeing. At his request, we changed his voice.
With all the problems reported on the 787, there's 90% that's getting swept away, hushed up. It's an iceberg.
In another meeting, the source told us workers are often underskilled, uncaring, and in some cases on drugs.
I've seen a lot of things that should not go on at an airplane plant. People talking about doing drugs, looking for drugs.
It's all coke and painkillers and what's that other one? You can get weed here. It's really good weed here. They don't drug test nobody.
I know they don't.
And there's people who go out there and want to go smoke one up.
Do they?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, this is like deciding not to eat somewhere because you've seen how the food is made, just gross. And this investigation is not good. So, Boeing's got a lot of problems. You got a lot of people with a lot of power at the top who don't want things, they don't want to disrupt the status quo. You got a lot of people in the military industrial complex right now, especially when we're in the middle of all these proxy wars. They don't want to disrupt the status quo. They don't want disruption at one of the main manufacturers of weapons. So, what is this? Look, we don't know what really happened to this whistleblower. I mean, they'll investigate. They're going to come back and say, no, it was suicide. I think that's what we could all expect. If they're going to say Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide, they're definitely going to say this guy did, even though it's extremely, extremely, extremely suspect. So all this really does is whether he actually killed himself or not, whether he really did it or if he didn't and somebody else did it. People are suspicious now. And people, I think what this really showcases is that more and more people, even a presidential candidate, is suspicious about the circumstances. And really that is, I think, shining a light on how Americans feel about our companies, about our politics, about the greed in this country, about how obviously money is king and money buys everything and people will do anything for money. And that has just become, I think, really apparent. And people are starting to catch on to that. And now everything's suspect. Hey guys, be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you like this segment. Now you might be wondering, this seems like it's part of a bigger show. You're right, it is. The full show is at KimIversonShow.com. So what you're watching is just a clip. And if you want to get the full experience, then you got to go to KimIversonShow.com. The show airs Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. That is where you can watch the full show. Here, you just get clips. So click on the link down below, go to the full show, enjoy. Otherwise, I'll see you next time right here. And be sure, once again, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.